Hey everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Today I'm wanting to show you how to do a beach themed tumbler using alcohol ink. And I'm going to go over the supplies first and then we'll go ahead and get started with it. So first you're going to be needing a stainless steel tumbler of your choice. I bought mine from Walmart. This is Ozark brand, the 30 ounce. You're going to be needing gloves. Going to be needing some epoxy and a popsicle stick and a measuring cup. The epoxy that I'm using today is Aluminite Clear Cast. I get this from Amazon, part A and part B. And you're going to be needing some alcohol ink. So the alcohol ink that I'm using, it's Tim Holtz. I'm using the color Latte for the sand. And for the water, I'm using Sailboat Blue. And for the sky, I'm using my own. I do make my own alcohol inks. And if you like to know how to make your own alcohol inks, I do have a video on my page. So this is one of my light blue homemade inks. Right, so I do lay trash bags down just in case I make a mess. And to test my colors as well. There's some on the side. I do test them on the trash bags. So if you do have a lot of different color blues or browns or any color you're working with, I always like to put the trash bag down, and I if you can see here, I put them on the side to do like a test color. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. You're gonna start out with a white, I prefer white stainless steel tumbler. I sprayed it down with matte white spray paint and make sure it's completely dry. So this is completely dried. I'll push this way. And I have the white on the bottom as well. And the epoxy, I mixed 2 parts of 10 milliliters each, totaling to 20 milliliters. So I did part A 10 milliliters and part B 10 milliliters. And that gave me 20. Okay, so you want I prefer a thicker coat of epoxy on the tumbler. And whenever you mix these two, make sure you stir the epoxy very slow. So I went ahead and I stirred it before the video, so you didn't have to stay here and watch me stir it. But this is how slow I stirred the epoxy. And once you know it's stirred, or once you know it's mixed, is whenever it is clear. So whenever you first start stirring it, you'll see strings and you'll see cloudiness. That's completely okay. Just keep stirring it slowly. It takes about 3 minutes. Keep stirring it slowly and it will eventually be clear. If you do have any small air bubbles, you can go ahead and take a heat gun. I make sure I blow it first because I used to drop my heat gun and I blow sand. And then it pops some bubbles. I know some people use a like Scentsy warmer or a candle warmer and they put it on top of the warmer, and it does do the same thing. It pops the bubbles. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour this on my tumbler, the epoxy. And all you're wanting to do is just pour all of the epoxy all over the tumbler. And since this isn't like a glitter tumbler or anything, I don't stress about how I spread it on, like what direction I use. And I prefer my gloved hand. Usually a gloved finger, but since I'm pouring it all over, I just do my whole hand. And one thing I do always do is I change my gloves a lot, because I've touched so many things with my epoxy still wet, like my heat gun or my chair or anything, on accident. So I do always change gloves. So excuse me. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and, so I have most of the epoxy on here. I'm gonna go ahead and just clean it up some. And this is whenever I just spread it to like even it out. And the good thing about these turners is it turning evens it out for you. The constant turn of it does even out the epoxy. So just make sure you get a nice even coat on there. And I use all of my epoxy on here. I like a thick coat. And you can see there's some dripping, and that's completely okay. So this is the thick coat of epoxy. You can go up and down. I know there's some people that just go up and down like this. I'm not very picky about it because it's going to lay flat whenever it's finished anyways. Okay, so I always like to go about 2 or 3 times around to make sure there's no fish eyes. And the reason to do the reason to spray the spray the stainless steel tumbler with matte finish spray paint is so the epoxy can stick on the tumbler. So if you would just do stainless steel tumbler, you might get a lot of fish eyes. Sorry, I'm moving the tumbler a lot. So yeah, so if you would start with stainless steel, I've tried it myself just to test it, and it does leave a lot of fish eyes. And fish eyes is whenever the epoxy settles and it spreads out and there's a dry spot inside of the cup, and that's nothing that you want. It is fixable, but if you can avoid it, then I would avoid it. All right, so looks like there's a thick coat. I don't know why my cup keeps turning down. I think it's not on the football properly. There it goes. Okay. So it's my thick coat of epoxy. And I use all 20 milliliters of epoxy for this 30-ounce tumbler. I'll go ahead and take off my gloves. And we are going to start using the alcohol ink. Now, I know you probably see a lot of videos of people putting the heat gun on the tumbler. For this design, you don't want to do this because whenever you apply the heat gun to the epoxy, it thins it out and then it makes swirls. So I'm not wanting swirls. I'm wanting this to be kind of separate, the colors kind of be separate, but still kind of blend together. So you'll see what I'm saying. Okay, I just have to fix this because I do see some thin epoxy, so, right. All right. So working with alcohol inks, it does stain your hands, so if you are working with it, I would advise to wear a glove. So as of now, you're just going to go ahead and dab on the alcohol ink. And the first time I've done this, or this isn't the first time, but when I first did this, I put too much on here, and it kind of it was just way too much. So the alcohol ink kind of smushed to the bottom. So you can always add more whenever you're finished, or if you want more, you can never take away. And if you see, I'm going on the end of my tumbler and I'm just dabbing so it can go down below my, on the bottom of my cup. I like to keep that filled. So, and this is my personal preference, but if you guys want to make the sand, like I try to make the sand half of the small spot and the beach a little bit over where the groove is or the bump is, and then I do the sky. So I'm gonna stop there, and I know like this dark color, it takes over, so it's really trial and error with this alcohol ink. So I'm just dabbing just one drop at a time, and I like to dab it as it's going around because if y'all can see, it like drips down. I usually have the tumbler going my way, the turner going my way, but for video purposes, I'm trying to make it go y'all's way. I know right now you guys are like, what the heck is that? But trust me, it's going to be cute. Oh, and by the way, if y'all saw I did that spot, if you do that really quickly, it spreads the alcohol ink out of the little tube. So try to be careful with that. I do it all the time on accident. So I'm trying to just get in the camera. All right. Let me just get this spot here. Okay, see, I'm telling y'all can add more later, and I'm just going crazy with it. And then I'm going to do the sky. This alcohol ink that I made, it was with off-brand permanent markers, so it's not as strong. And this was my first batch I ever made, so I usually don't use it. But for this cup, I love it because you can see through the ink. So it gives it kind of a cloudy look. So really, I was gonna really throw these away or add more ink to it, but I just love how it looks on the tumbler for this look. So I'm going to fill in one of these blanks here. I see a spot where it's like really, there it is. I think I got it, sorry. Here it is. Okay. Now this is when you take the heat gun and you kind of swirl all the colors together. All right. So you take your heat gun, you make sure you turn it on and you blow it towards, always blow it towards an open area, because if you have sand or anything, or even glitter where you place your heat gun at, right whenever it blows, it's going to blow right onto your tumbler. So always make sure you blow it somewhere else before you blow it on your tumbler. And then I'm going to put the heat gun, I say about 6 inches or 3 inches, if you guys can see. And then I just keep it constantly moving on the tumbler, because you don't want to move it on one spot, because, or keep it on one spot, because you're going to have, you're going to burn your epoxy. And you want to do it very fast, very quickly. I make sure I get the bottom too. Okay. So as you can see, just a little bit of heat that I applied, it made a huge difference. It kind of brings in the colors. So this is when I say you can add more to the tumbler. So if you see that white spot, I'm going to add more, and I'm going to add more on the sand. So there's a little bit of white spots here. I'm just going to add more to, because like I told y'all, when I first did this, oops, I just threw that alcohol. When I first did this, I added way too much alcohol ink, and it didn't look pretty at all, in my opinion. So always add a little bit. Whenever you're doing any crafts, always try to add a little bit. You can always add more. I'm sure y'all already know that though. All right, so I'm just filling in the blanks here. I'm not going too crazy. And if you can see, oh, I just put the dot there. If you can see my homemade alcohol ink, you can see through the white, and I wanted that because I wanted to have a cloud look. And I'm going to fix that too, because I don't want that dot there. So I made a boo-boo. There it goes. That was from me going, I guess not too rough, but like I said, you know, moving the alcohol ink too much. Right. And a lot of people with these, they take a white color alcohol ink or a pearl color and they add clouds. But like I said, with this one, I could see through the white. So I like the white poking through mine. So I'm going to take the heat gun again. And like I said, make sure you do it quickly. Don't keep it on one spot or it's going to burn the epoxy. And if you can see, like I mentioned earlier, the darker colors typically take over. So you see the blue is running into the sand. So it typically usually takes over. And if y'all can see, I have this, I heated this up so much that it's actually turning. So that's what I want to do. Like the sand is actually turning. And if I see a little bit of fish eyes, I take my finger and I just blot some more epoxy on. Like I move the epoxy to the cup because I don't want to have to which I am because I'm going to add a decal, but I don't want to have to re-epoxy an entire cup just for 2 or 3 fish eyes. So sometimes the fish eyes do happen even if you matte the cup, you spray paint it. So here it is. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. I move the ink wherever I want to move it. I try to, at least. And the cool part about this is even in about an hour, it's gonna look different. So that's the fun part. I love it. All right, so here is your tutorial on how to make a beach themed tumbler using alcohol inks. And I'm going to put all the materials that I use below if you're needing them, so they will be in the description. If you do like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos on crafting and tumblers. Thanks for joining. See you next time.